Hi, I'm Millie Swan, Executive Business Strategist and heart-based leadership mentor to CEOs, business executives and people who are specialists at what they do who just happen to be in business. Well, this is the second stage of a 5-step series that we're bringing to you about how to take your business from where you might be really struggling and just coping physically and emotionally back to a place where you're thriving and really enjoying your business again. And how do you get there? I've been there. I know how hard it can be sometimes. And I really love my business these days. But really, this tool and these little series is really just a way for you to move forward really quickly. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about an attitude reboot and really how I want to give you a clue about what this is all about and how to take the steps going forward into the little series that we're giving you. Really, when you've lost connection with your own business, you've also lost touch with yourself. And how do we reconnect you back to what makes you really happy in the business? So I'm going to be introducing my second tool that is just the foundation key tool that I have used for years and years. It's called the Connection and Motivation tool. It's how you can motivate yourself and connect back with yourself and what you really love. But it's also about how you can connect and motivate others to assist you in the business. Really, all this starts with you and your own understanding about yourself. And from there, we can really start moving you forward to understand how to motivate others and how to get the help that you need to really align yourself back into the business. It's a really powerful tool. And why I want to give this to you is the outcome I've seen transforming not only my own business many years ago, but that of the people that I work with is immediate, and how they can actually really understand what was going badly before, but also how to move it forward now. So this connection and motivation tool is really the key. That, I think, is really the key. Creating great relationships within business and great relationships in your personal life. It affects both. So let me go through these steps with you. I'm going to use the connection and motivation tool, and I'll describe to you what this actually really does. The connection and motivation tool, it comes from the understanding about the fact that everybody needs to be loved, everybody needs to be accepted, and that this is what really drives our behaviour. It's what motivates us to take action, particularly when we're asked to do things by other people, and when we want to do things for ourselves too. How do we self-satisfy? You can choose yourself every day to connect badly with people, and you can also choose to connect really well with them. And what I want to do is teach you how to choose to connect really easily with people. And this little tool is great for that, because it helps you to work out what you need and also what they need. And very quickly, with very simple interactions, you can make things happen so effortlessly. It's an understanding about what motivates people and what motivates yourself. Nobody teaches this stuff. And it's a real frustration for me. So, it's time to really get all this stuff out there. It is based in our simple understanding that we have a personality style, and there are 5 key ones, but the most important ones that I have identified are ones that people are either certain or they're significant. And when you're certain, you talk a lot about time and money. And when you're significant, you talk a lot about perceptions and success and where you're at. And often these two simple differences I find in about 70% of people are really key indicators on the first steps of actually getting to understand what it is that drives people. The second part of this is when you really understand that every single person seeks connection, it's really just a basis of how they need to be loved. And if you look at the love languages that around the 5 love languages from Chapman, he describes them beautifully. And when you put these two things together, and you have an understanding of the different stages of being loved, then you can really start to motivate people. On myself, I know that I'm a certain person and I like quality time. Other people who work in my business, they may be certain, and they may also be acts of service. So in the love languages, there are 5 key love languages, and I find in business there are the 3 key ones: acts of service, quality time, and also how we actually talk about words to other people, words of affirmation or words of confirmation. There are other ones as well, gifts and touch, but these top three, quality time, words of affirmation, and acts of service, they're really key things in business. When you can really quickly pick what they are, then you can get fantastic outcomes of motivating what you want from people, and also motivating yourself by asking for what you need. I want to talk to you a little bit about a client of mine who's been with me for a little while, and how we turned around very quickly one of the biggest challenges he had in his business. He had a medium-sized business with about 15 staff, and he was struggling. We got his cash flow back on track, and then we needed to motivate his staff properly. Some of his staff had been with him for years, and he just couldn't quite seem to get things right. And when I explained this, who the personality styles, and I showed this very quickly in just a few minutes to the guy who owned the business, a guy called Pat, he suddenly became really aware of what had been going wrong in his own business. First, he owned it. He owned his own personal style and how he'd been working with one of his senior managers. And then he realised how quickly he could turn it around. That day, actually, in fact. So Pat has a large manufacturing business, and his floor manager, he could never sort of seem to get it quite right with motivating him. And he'd been working with him for years. Great guy, and they got on really well and had great respect for each other, but Pat could never seem to continually motivate Barry, who was a really hardworking guy. What we uncovered really from this connection and motivation tool was there was a bit of a disconnect all the time, and there was quite a bit of frustration between the two of them. And Barry wasn't really delivering what Pat was really needing, and they were both frustrated because they realised that this connection wasn't happening for either of them, but they couldn't really articulate it. By going through the tool, we actually really clearly identified quickly that Pat was a significant style of person, and he was concerned about the success of part of the business, and his perception wasn't that it wasn't being successful, and it wasn't at that stage. He was also someone who needed words of affirmation and needed confirmation that he was actually doing okay himself. And as the leader of the business, it's pretty challenging if you can't seem to connect with your senior guys. We had Barry, who was his floor manager, great guy, had been with him for 8 years. And Barry was the exact opposite. Barry was a guy who was certain. He wanted to know what was coming next, what the structure was, where the next jobs were, was there plenty of money there to run the jobs, and that sort of thing. And he was also a quality time guy. And it was really interesting, the interplay between the two. Pat didn't really quite understand that Barry just needed 20 minutes of his time every day to be supported in making sure the jobs that were being done were on track, and then that there was always plenty of future work coming as well. That was Bob's nature. He needed to know that there was plenty coming and it was all in hand. Pat hadn't quite articulated that to Barry, and Pat hadn't also really sat down on a regular time every day just to support Barry in driving the rest of the team. When Pat realised this, because it wasn't something Pat needed, he didn't need quality time. He was a high-level guy. He had the ideas, and he knew how the jobs had to run. But when we explained this to Pat, the first thing he said was, "Oh my God, I owe my floor manager an apology. Now I understand what he needs. Now I know what to give him so that we can get the jobs going really quickly and Barry feels supported in his work." Immediately, the whole transition happened very quickly. And we worked out within Pat's day where he could give Bob 20 minutes every day. And so really when it was right at lunchtime, right before the lunch break, at a time when Barry had been busy during the day, and Pat could actually make an assessment about where they were and what was going on. We also explained to Barry that he needed to reassure Pat that the jobs were okay, or to discuss with Pat what the problems were, because Pat felt that he didn't really know what was going on, because Pat was words of affirmation. He needed verbal confirmation. So when we explained this, the whole business turned around. So much money was not going out the door in wasted time. All the frustration was removed immediately from the two guys, and they both started to enjoy their work much more quickly. Now, I've seen this kind of scenario so effortlessly change businesses it brings in more money, it takes all the pressure off people. They both, staff and business owners, really start to get along, teams start to come together. It also meant that Bob could also motivate his other staff when we just spent half an hour explaining to him, identifying who the other people, his key people were and what they needed. It just took the pressure off everyone. From this understanding that everybody needs to feel connected. Everybody feels that they need to be part of something. And this great little tool really made it happen for this business. If you want to understand more and exactly how to do this like they did, and exactly how I do it in my own businesses, and this works at all levels of business, even from little startups, and it's also part of Client Connection. It's very first steps for Client Connection tools and how to motivate clients to come on board with you without actually feeling like you're doing the sell. It actually is a way of serving people at your highest level. I want you to click on down below and come and do the little five-step course that we give you. We'll give you the PDFs. We'll show you how to do this. And it'll be my absolute pleasure for you to come on board and see how these things really can work for you. It is one of the most foundational transforming tools you will ever use. You can also use it with your family. It's how you can you've always wondered why you've never got along with your sister or never got along with your brother. Something isn't quite right. Well, when you understand who you are, when exactly what you need, then from this place you can quickly, almost immediately understand what other people's style is and what motivates them. It's such a simple thing. I'm so happy to be able to teach this to people. I've been using it for 25 years. Hundreds of other people I've taught it to in the consulting business are using it, and it is so profound. So don't miss this opportunity. Go and click on start the course now and really help yourself move forward and enjoy your life and reconnect with yourself again.